Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Week 16 edition of the Player Prop Happy Hour presented by the 33rd Team. I am your host, as always, Josh Larky. Joined with me, as always, by my co-host, the Associate Director of Fantasy and Betting, Ryan Reynolds. And we are joined by our new recurring guest, Ahaan Rungta. He is our resident data scientist. He does our projections, and he likes to dabble in the betting space as well. We'll forgive his Patriots hat today. For those of you that are new to the show, the way this works is each of us brings 3 player prop bets to the table. We're just going to rotate through rapid fire. We'll discuss the bet we're taking, the sports book with the best odds that we have found, and the reasoning behind our prop, whether that's analytics, film, logic, statistics. Ryan, I'm going to start with you. What is your first bet of the day?
I've had some bad luck with tight end wagers this year. Injuries usually happen when I bet on a tight end in the season. Before I get in my play, though, I want to say this: Trey McBride right now is 5.5 over receptions is minus 190. I can't remember the last time I've seen something like that, where a player like that's 5.5 is a pretty strong number, and it's minus the overage minus 190. Crazy stuff. Now that said, Darren Waller over 3.5 receptions minus 114 on FanDuel. I've said all week that Christmas was going to be a rough day for me as a Giants fan. Eagles pass rush could put up wild numbers in this matchup. Thankfully, the Giants have a good coaching staff. They'll try to mitigate that edge with some quick hitters, some manufactured completions while moving DeVito outside the pocket. Eagles have been vulnerable in linebacker and safety all year. I expect Waller to see a bump in playing time from last week. You can also get this number at a value right now on FanDuel. Juice is around 130 here on this number elsewhere, so I hit this when I saw it.
Yeah, we talked about this a little earlier in the week, that he actually was over this number in his return from injury, running half the routes last week. So a lot of upside there. Ahaan, your first bet of the day.
We have Saturday football and Sunday football and Monday football, and I'm starting with something on Saturday night. And it's another one of those systems that's been a wagon for me. I bet this market, I believe, 3 times so far this season. And I've been 3-0, trying to go 4-0, and it's passing completions against the sorry defense that is the Los Angeles Chargers. With or without Brandon Staley, this Chargers defense is terrible. And I'm taking Josh Allen over 22.5 passing completions. That's even money right now over at DraftKings. Here's a list of every quarterback and their passing completions against the Chargers this year. Tua, 28. Ryan Tannehill, 20. Kirk Cousins, 32. Aiden O'Connell, 24. Dak Prescott, 21. Patrick Mahomes, 32. Tyson Bagent, 25. Zach Wilson, 33. Jared Goff, 23. Jordan Love, I betted that game, 27. Lamar, 18. Bailey Zappi, doesn't really count, 13. Russell Wilson, I betted that game, 21. And Easton Stick, 23. Well, I don't know why I said Easton Stick. I meant whoever they faced last week. Regardless.
Aiden O'Connell again.
Aiden O'Connell, yes. Aiden O'Connell, 23. So that is almost every quarterback, save maybe 3 or 4, some of which don't count, some chilly weather games, some are named Bailey Zappi. But that's almost every real situation quarterback hitting this line. They rank number 27 in dropback EPA per play as a pass defense. Allen has hit this in 8 out of 14. The reason we're getting a buy low is last game, they won the game by multiple possessions with only 7 completions. Josh Allen, who would be an MVP candidate if Gabe Davis had good hands, and he only completed 7 passes. And the new offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, said, we stuck with the run because it was working, but I wanted this to be a pass game. I wanted Josh Allen to sling it. And he said, the run game was working, so I just stuck with it, and it just kept working. So this could be a blowout, and that's the main concern for Josh Allen. But I think in this game, they're going to come out with that pass game mentality. And if it is a blowout, it's probably because Josh Allen had success through the air. So Allen over 22.5 completions plus money over DraftKings.
Ahaan, I like that prop. Guys, if you want to see Ahaan's projections, they are on the 33rdteam.com. He has an article each week where he writes up his projections and his thoughts on them. You get the projections tables in that. He is Ahaan Rungta on Twitter. And Ryan is Ryan Reynolds, NFL on Twitter. The better Ryan Reynolds, the better looking, the smarter, the more successful Ryan Reynolds. Help him find his Blake Lively. And in the meantime, check out his work on the33rdteam.com. He will let you know what he's betting on in each and every game. That is going to hit the site either tonight or tomorrow morning. For my first bet of the day, We're going to go with a player that has done nothing other than annoy bettors, fantasy analysts alike. We are actually going to take an over on Calvin Ridley. I know. Hold your nose. We're going over 54.5 receiving yards. It's minus 114 on FanDuel. This is at least 55.5, if not 56.5 everywhere else. Week 13, he had 8 targets, 156 air yards. Week 14, 13 targets, 166 air yards. Week 15, 12 targets, 166 air yards. That's at least 156 air yards in 3 straight games. He's averaging about 11 targets per game during that span. Yet he's been under this number for receiving yards in all 3 games. You might say those aren't air yards, those are prayer yards. Overall, Ridley is just 5-9 to this over. But we need a little more context. Christian Kirk is on injured reserve. And Zay Jones now has a hamstring injury. He's week to week. He won't play. So this will be Ridley's first game without either of them this year. Trevor Lawrence even practiced today. The team has said they're optimistic he will, in fact, clear concussion protocol. That's a big change of pace. I will update my fantasy rankings with Lawrence in now due to this optimism, due to him practicing this week. And then the matchup is great. The Buccaneers have allowed 194 receiving yards per game to receivers. That's the second most. There's simply nobody else in this pass attack other than Ridley and Ingram this week. And I'm going to hold my nose. I'm going to bet on Calvin Ridley over 54.5 receiving yards. It simply has to happen at some point for him, and I think it's this week. Ryan, am I crazy for this? And what is your second bet of the day?
No, I don't think that's crazy. I get it. I like it.
Thank you.
I mean, as long as Lawrence is playing, that is. If it's CJ Beathard, I wouldn't go anywhere near any over related to the Jacksonville Jaguars. That said, I'm going to go back to that Bills-Chargers game. I'm very much aligned with Ahaan here. I'm going to take Josh Allen over 244.5 passing yards, minus 115 at BetMGM. Allen's also 8-6 against this number on the season. Chargers are giving up the 3rd most passing yards per game this year. Like Ahaan said, Josh Allen only had 94 passing yards last week. I think that was more opponent-specific game plan type thing. The teams that have had success against Dallas have ran the ball down their throat. I think that's kind of an anomaly for Buffalo. And they try to air it out indoors in Los Angeles this week. Completely aligned with Ahaan there. 2 big concerns here. A defensive score from Buffalo that could steal a drive from the offense and lead towards this, getting out of control. But on the other hand, like Ahaan said, if this game is a blowout, it's probably because Josh Allen's just lighting these guys up. Reminds me a bit of the Detroit game last year indoors, late in the season. So I like Josh Allen over 244.5 passing yards in this matchup.
I like that too. It's always nice when we on the show are independently aligned, and you have that, folks, with Ryan and Ahaan on Josh Allen this week. Ahaan, what is your second player prop bet of the day?
For the second one, just wanted to mention, you did mention the model that the article was up earlier. For what it's worth, the model has Josh Allen completions at 25.8. That's a big discrepancy for what it's worth. But for the second prop, we're going to assist him. I'm not gonna mull over it too much. I'm gonna C button, click button. Kickers versus the New York Jets. We're going right back. It hit at plus money last week, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if anything, I think this is a much better spot, and we're getting almost the same price. Joey Sly, over 1.5 field goals made, minus 105 DraftKings. When I lose one of these bets, I will stop, maybe. Rinse and repeat. 11 opposing kickers against the Jets now have attempted 2+ field goals against them. The Jets, we know who they are. They're not invincible, but when they get to the red zone, they're arguably the best defense in the NFL. Sly has 2+ field goal attempts in 6 out of 14 games, but 5 out of 10 in non-super blowouts, and the Commanders have been part of a lot of those. This is probably not going to be a super blowout because Jets offense are sorry. They're sorry, and it's a low total. It's a small spread. If it is a blowout, my respect goes out to Trevor Siemian. If that's why we lose, all power to him. This looks like it could be a beautiful game at MetLife with, not the actual game, but the weather is going to be good with almost no wind, 37-degree weather, complete sun out there. So no weather concerns here. Minus 105 DraftKings, Joey Sly over 1.5 field goals made.
Folks, that's Ahaan Rungta on Twitter. Come for the betting takes, come for the projections, stay for the humor. For my second bet of the day, this is a player I've talked about a lot positively this week. It's Chuba Hubbard. And I'm going to take him over 16.5 rush attempts. It's minus 115 on ESPN Bet. This is already up to minus 130 on DraftKings. It's the same odds, but has raised from 16.5 to 17.5 rush attempts on FanDuel. In these 3 games since head coach Frank Reich was fired, all they've done is lean on Chuba Hubbard. No Carolina Panthers running back had reached 20 carries in a game. Until the past 3 games, Chuba's had at least 22 in all of them. You might be like, well, Josh, it's probably a bad matchup. Then there has to be something going on here. No, there is not. They face the Packers. The Packers allow the 4th most rushing yards a game to running backs. They allow the 6th most rush attempts per game to running backs. The Panthers' pass offense is broken. We talk about this every week. The streak is now up to 7 straight games under 200 passing yards. They've scored just 2 passing touchdowns in that span. Everything funnels through the run game. I think they're going to lean on Chuba Hubbard once again because that's all they've been doing with the new regime. And the matchup suggests that they should once again go back to the well with the run game. Chuba Hubbard over 16.5 rush attempts. -115 ESPN bet. Ryan, your third and final player prop bet of the day.
Going to stick with the same team, same game. Adam Thielen under 47.5 receiving yards, -115 on DraftKings. Adam Thielen started off the year red hot, but he's gone under this number in 5 of his last 7 games. Went under this number twice last year against Green Bay as a Viking. Packers are familiar with Thielen. The real reason I like this is I think this is a bounce back spot for the Packers defense after their atrocious showing against Tampa last week. They're a talented group. I'm a regression player. I want to bet against the Panthers passing attack. And ultimately, that's the reason behind this. I think that the lines, Ahaan's not crazy about this line, and I think he has a fair point there. But I want to bet against the Panthers offense in this contest. Adam Thielen under 47.5 receiving yards.
I like it. You could probably correlate those in a little same game parlay if you're interested, folks. A little Chuba rush attempts over, little Thielen sprinkle of the receiving yards under. Ahaan, your third and final player prop bet of the day.
Whenever I get a chance to bet on someone with the same birthday as me, I will do it. And I'm doing that here with Tyjae Spears, the best running back on the Tennessee Titans. I've already made Titans fans mad enough all season long. I can afford a little bit more. It's fine. Ryan Tannehill's probably starting at quarterback for the Titans this week against a Seattle defense that ranks dead last in rush EPA per play allowed since they came off that bye way back in week 6. This, combined with a potential positive game script, Tennessee is favored for what it's worth. That should encourage running the football. But instead of forcing washed vet Derrick Henry in this lost cause of a season, Tennessee should really see what they have in Tyjae Spears. And what we know from Tyjae Spears is he's explosive, 91st percentile as a prospect in college yards per carry. And this season ranks number 5 among all running backs in breakaway run rate. He's a walking explosive run play guy. And this, if he gets 1 carry and gets 25 yards, we hit our bet because I'm taking Tyjae Spears over 24.5 rushing yards. If you look at this further, the volume should be also there more than normal this season. The rush attempts line on, Vegas agrees with me that they're going to see what they have in Tyjae Spears. The rush attempts line is 6.5. So he's hit this in all 5 of the games where he's had more than 5 carries. He could get 7 carries for 25 yards, but he could also get 1 and then just end up with 50 rushing yards. This is starting to move on some other books. So if you get 27.5, 28.5, that's also fine because the model has this at 36.6.
Ahaan, I like the logic. Folks, that's why we're taking Calvin Ridley over 54.5 receiving yards because he could have a 55-yard reception and the bet would hit. On a serious note, I like that. Titans have been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. Does not look like the big dog will be there next season. Spears sneakily actually has 10 or more touches in 3 straight games now. They are turning to the rookie more and more. And folks, you should be turning to Ryan Reynolds NFL and Ahaan Rungta on Twitter. Make sure you're checking out their work on the33rdteam.com. Ryan might be the hardest working, most article pumping man in the industry at this point. You have to check out everything from his Survivor thoughts on Mondays to his NFL power rankings on Tuesdays, where the 49ers are atop number 1. We'll get back to that in just a second. Thursdays, his expert picks and predictions for every game. Today, Friday, the player prop happy hour. And then on Saturdays, he lets you know what he's betting on in each and every game. Make sure you're checking out Ahaan's projections, the newest member of our team, the best new member of our team as well. He finally brought the shades out. Speaking of the 49ers, number 1 in the power rankings, we're going to end the show with a 49ers bet. This is a bet that is 13-1 to the under this year. And we're going to take the under on Brock Purdy, 31.5 pass attempts. minus 125 on DraftKings. So you might be like, oh, minus 125, scary. And then you realize that this has been under in 13 of 14 games this year. In fact, it is not 31.5 pass attempts. It is listed at 29.5 pass attempts on FanDuel. We are taking the 31.5 under on DraftKings. As I mentioned, Purdy's been under all but one game this year. Quarterbacks, they do average the third most pass attempts per game, 37 against the Ravens. Quarterbacks are actually 11-3 to the over against Baltimore this year. And you might be like, well, why do we bet this? Well, a lot of that is just game script. Teams are passing a lot on the Ravens because the Ravens are blowing them out. The Ravens have only lost 3 games this year. Fortunately, when we zoom out, the Niners are 5.5-point favorites. I do not think they are going to need to pass more than usual. And you might be like, well, I thought Brock Purdy had some pretty good stats. He does. The reason that he doesn't pass a lot but has good stats is this is the most efficient passing offense in the NFL, maybe the most efficient passing offense ever. Brock Purdy's averaging 9.9 yards per pass attempt this year. He's basically averaging a first down per pass attempt. It is absolutely ludicrous. I don't think any defense can contain Brock Purdy when he's throwing to Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. I think that continues another week. Brock Purdy under 31.5 pass attempts. Folks, that's 9 player prop bets in 16 minutes flat. From myself, Josh Larky, from my co-host, Ryan Reynolds, from my other co-host, Ahaan Rungta, from the 33rd team. Thank you, everyone,